when you look at it, I mean, Jesus ate with people. He made time
Yep.
for people. He prayed with them. He walked with them. He wept with it. Like he was with people, and he also modeled getting away with the Father. So could we just boil it down to saying, all right, fathers, can you just walk with your kids? Can you be there, create spaces, create conversation, create connection, and also model a relationship with the Father that's contagious? If you
Yeah.
could just do that, that doesn't require knowing Hebrew or Greek. It doesn't require knowing all
Right.
that.
Right.
It's just, man, have a passionate relationship with Jesus that overflows and your kids see it.
Welcome to the Valiant Forge podcast, where we help men overcome life's battles, show up better in the world, and become a valiant warrior for God. This is a place where we share practical strategies that will equip you on life's journey to help you become the man God has called you to be. Are you ready to overcome your doubt and fulfill your purpose just like Gideon? If so, let's go.
With Father's Day coming up, I've been thinking about what it means to be a godly example to our children and how do we lead our families well. Parenting isn't just about telling our kids what to do, but it's about modeling it for them. If we want our kids to be in the Word, we need to be in the Word. But if we want our kids to pray, they need to see us praying and not just, say grace before dinner, which that's important, or saying your prayers before bed, but that's also important. But even just in daily life, when you have a decision come up, your kids are watching what you're doing, and you need to model that. So with me thinking about that, and this Father's Day is coming up, I purposely put this episode out. I had a conversation with Matt Nations. He's a co-author of the book Parenting Against the Current. He wrote it with Josh Poteet. I was supposed to have Josh on the podcast, but he had a family situation come up and he couldn't make it, so he put Matt, his co-author, in place, and it was a great conversation. I actually love the fact that Josh didn't put the podcast before whatever the family situation came up, because it just shows his heart as a father. So I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. Before I do, I hope you're enjoying these conversations I'm having with a lot of these people. When you see me doing a Zoom interview, it's likely coming from Podmatch. Podmatch.com is the site where I'm finding these incredible men, and I got to be honest with you, it's really making me love podcasting more than I've loved it in the past. I mean, I do love podcasting, but just I'm meeting some incredible people that I probably would never have the opportunity to meet. And Matt, who I'm about to share the conversation with, he's one of these guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a link in the description for podmatch.com. If you are interested in starting a podcast, or you just want to have interviews with people, you can click on the link below and find out what that's all about. If you want to join the Podmatch thing, it's kind of like I've heard other people describe it this way, so I'm not taking credit for this, but it's kind of like a dating site for podcasts. You go on there, you put in your niche, and it matches you up with other people. Sometimes they're authors, sometimes they're other podcasters, and that's how you can get some interviews. It's amazing. I love it. So you can do that. Also, I haven't mentioned this in a while, and I'm not wearing it right now, but every once in a while you'll see me wearing a His Grace shirt. It's an apparel company by my friend Victor Anderson. That is also going to be in the show notes in the link, and along with the book that you can get. And Matt talks about how you can get the book at the end of the episode. Stay tuned for that. And as always, before I continue, before we get into the episode, if you enjoy this conversation, you enjoy the podcast, please like, share, subscribe, all those things. Leave comments. Let me know how you feel about parenting against the current today. What do you think the current is? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So, enough talking. Here is my conversation with Matt Nations. Matt, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for stepping in for Josh.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
sure Since you guys wrote the book together, you're going to have just as much information about the book that he will. So, for people that aren't familiar with you and Josh, can you give us a little bit of background?
Yeah. So Matt Nations, I'm on staff at a church down in Florida. Josh Poteet, who I wrote the book with, he's on staff at a church in Connecticut, and we've been friends a long time. Actually got to disciple Josh and got to hire Josh into his first role on staff at a church, and then kind of see him kind of grow. And so we've always been friends and just kind of collaborated and ended up coming up with this project of, equipping parents and writing this book. But more than that, we've been friends and our families have been friends, and lots of FaceTime calls with the kids. And
Hmm.
so that's been fun to do something with a friend, not just a coworker, which has been super fun.
So, how did you and Josh meet?
Yeah, we actually met. I was the college pastor at the time down here in Fort Myers, and funny story. I was way over my head. I never wanted to be in ministry. Kind of found myself tricked into ministry, and I was sitting there and praying for leaders. I was like, all right, I need some leaders. I got a lot of college young adults coming. We don't have a lot of leaders, and literally praying for them. And 2 weeks later, Josh and his buddy Andy actually walked into the church, and little did I know that it was going to be, he ended up being my men's coach for my entire
Wow.
ministry. But many years of just walking with him, discipling him. He first was just attending, the group, and then became a small group apprentice, then became a small group leader, then became a coach. And so eventually I got to hire him to take my role, which was super fun. So
Well,
yeah.
that's awesome. I haven't actually seen him face to face, and it's the first time I'm meeting you, but you guys look pretty similar in age.
Yeah, yeah, we're really, really close in age, and that's been fun too. Kind of get to grow up a little bit together, right? And get to have kids at the similar times, and get to kind of do life in similar seasons of life, which has been a real gift for us.
Yeah. Well, I really like the title of the book, Parenting Against the Current. So, what does the current, today's current, what does it look like? What does it mean?
Yeah, man, it's so many things. Turn on the news. I think you'll see a crazy current going all sorts of directions. Walk into a public school, you'll see currents going crazy. So I think it can be culture, just the general culture. I think the current can also be, for me in my own life, sometimes it's just laziness. I'm just tired, and that's where the current naturally drifts
Yeah,
me. It doesn't drift me towards intentionality with my kids. It usually drifts me towards turning ESPN on and watching a game and kind of vegging out on the couch after a long day of work. So I think the current is really kind of this metaphor of anything that kind of is taking us away from intentionally being the fathers that we're trying to be in the home, or the parents, or some grandparents are in that parenting role, whatever that role is over those kids that you're kind of over and discipling spiritually over. Anything that takes you away from that, that's the current.
yeah. From what I see, the world, we talk about the world in the church, we talk about the world. The world is trying to drive us away from the moral compass that the Bible
Yep.
has given us for many years. Like we see people, oh, be who you think you are, and then we end up
Yep.
being things that we should not be, that goes against our own biology.
Yep.
And I really think that we need discipleship in the home to uh, come against that. And I know you guys talk about discipleship a lot in your book. So how does a father disciple a child?
Yeah. It's such a man, there's so many layers to that, because I think, as you read the book, but also just in life, as you see Jesus, really discipleship goes back to him. He's the greatest disciple maker there ever was. I think he's the best
Amen.
model that we have. So a lot of the book, you'll just see us continue to point back to things that you see Jesus doing. But even we were just talking about this the other week, actually, about the disciples. If you took the 3 years that Jesus walked with the disciples, I mean, just intimately, let's just take 8 hours a day that they were awake. Let's say the other hours they're sleeping, doing other thing. 8 hours a day for 3 years, uh, and there were still major gaps after Jesus left. And so this isn't just like a 1 hour a week kind of thing on Sunday that you could just kind of delegate discipleship to the church. I mean, this is going to have to be a life on life. It's a long game. And
Right.
so when you ask what it is, it's so hard to kind of pinpoint one thing, I think if I had to kind of put it in a sentence, really it's showing up intentionally with your kids, and pointing them towards Jesus as you're doing the same. I think that's the big piece is it's not just me telling them what to do. It's part of it is modeling of just if you want your kids to get into the word, then they better see you getting into the word. If you want
Correct.
your
Yeah.
kids to pray, they need to see you pray. If you want your
Right.
kids to see you dating your wife and you want them to do that, then you have to do that as well. So it's showing up intentionally for them, making space for them, pointing them to Jesus. But then also the big piece, the whole first third of the book, we talk about it starts with you. It's not about the kids first. It starts with you and Jesus. So
Yeah, that leads me to another question I was going to ask. How important is spiritual health for a father today?
yeah, I think it's vital. I think even you and I were just talking before we kind of hit record, but there's a huge gap in the church right now. The Big C church, whatever church you go to, the Big C
Right,
church,
right.
there's a gap of men to women. And so I think it's hugely important that men step up and lead in their homes. I think they're the spiritual leaders of their homes. I think it's important for the kids. It's important for your spouse. I think it's important for communities that you have strong men that are actually living out what God calls us to be. So, yeah, I think it's vital.
Yeah, and I think one way that a man can really do that, like you were talking about intentionally, but in order for a man to disciple his child, he needs to be discipled and sharpened by another brother.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I talk about a lot in this podcast. What I'm trying to do here, I'm at the beginning stages of this.
Yeah.
As I build this platform, I'm trying to build a community of men that will help each other because what men need, and I was part of the reason that I started this because I know a lot of men probably struggle the same as I did. I
Yep.
was a lone wolf for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk about what was going on. I didn't want to
Yeah.
reach out to anybody. I didn't want anybody else to see that I was weak in certain areas. And I think
Yeah.
men really need to be vulnerable with each other in order to learn to disciple their children.
Yeah.
It's like a continuing process. Someone's disciple, I have a mentor discipling me, I'm discipling another
Yeah.
brother who's younger in the faith, and that person will be discipling their children.
Yeah.
Something that I wanted to go back to when you were talking about Jesus. Jesus got his disciples when they were either in their teens or young adults.
Yeah.
They had already cultural things ingrained in them. One
Yep.
of the blessings that a father has is he can start in the early stages
Yep.
of a child's life. And, we do have public schools and the
Yep.
cultural things that will take away, that will sort of ingrain their doctrines into their children, but a
Yeah.
father has that authority to really place the proper doctrine into a child.
Yep. Yep. I would say with that, I think part of what we're doing as fathers is reaching our kids before culture does. And I think
Correct.
sometimes I see in the church world, I see dads, well, I'm going to wait until they get older to kind of they can understand and actually dialogue. And so I'll wait till middle school or I'll wait till and I would caution don't wait. I think whatever year you think is the right year, I think things in culture and public schools are happening sooner and sooner. And I would say also there's huge wisdom and help in starting before they're even ready. One thing me and my wife did, so I'm in ministry, so I'm like one of those professional Christians, and I still was trying to share the gospel with my kid and stumbling over my words because how do you do it to a kid that it actually makes sense? My kid was like, "Well, wait, is there three gods or one God? I'm confused." All these
Right,
kind of
right.
things that we
Yeah.
talk through. And so we at the beginning of his life, from 0 to 1, before he even ever understood, I decided every night when I'm rocking him, I'm going to try to share the gospel with him. He does not know. He can't hear. He can't. It was about me just trying to. So by the time he's actually ready, I'm actually like equipped. I've done this a couple times. I've practiced my own self. So yeah, I would highly encourage fathers start whatever age they are now, start. And if you don't have kids yet, start when they're out. Start figuring out how to practice this stuff. And
Absolutely.
like you said, get some other men. I think other men need other men around them who have been there, done that. So
Yeah, I would even encourage a father who's looking, someone, or maybe a single man looking to be a father someday,
Yeah.
to just, mentor another child, find another child, one of your friend's
Yeah.
child that you can start just nurturing and helping
Yeah.
grow as well. Um, the Bible says, teach a child in the way they should go, and then when they grow up, they won't depart from it. I
Yeah.
think that's a key verse. So, say there's a father who, their children are maybe getting into their teenage years, or maybe even grown at this point, and they missed the boat. They haven't been mentoring their children and discipling them. What
Yeah.
advice would you give to a father who's in that position?
Yeah. I think I think this is something that keeps a lot of men, and I think even older men out of the house, like when their kids are out of the house. I think the shame and the guilt can just speak of like, man, I wish I should have, or I could have done this, or I didn't do that. And I think instead of focusing on what you didn't do or what you haven't done or the lost time, I think I would focus on what time you do have, whether they're in your house and they only have a few years left, like you're saying, or they're out of the house. Um, I think there's still time to be able to speak into that man's life, that young man's life. And I think words from a father can cut deeply in a beautiful way or a hard way. And so I would say if you've been there and it's 2, 3 years left and they're leaving the house or wherever that is, I think some of the most important words you could say is you could just start with, "Hey, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm sorry about this. Here's what I was trying to do. From here on out, here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to spend some intentional time with you. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's every other week, whatever rhythm works." But I think that kind of I'm sorry, like, hey, I apologize for that. I wasn't as intentional as I thought I wanted to be, but I'm gonna make a difference now. I think that's a hugely impactful thing. And I could just speak for myself at 35. I've had my dad has said things in the past few years that have been maybe some of the most impactful words he's ever said to me. So I don't think it's ever too late. I think anytime a father feels that kind of nudge to be able to say some key words to their son, I think it's a gift that you can offer as a father.
Yeah, I can absolutely identify with that because I've actually experienced that. I'm
Yeah.
an empty nester now. And when my kids were young, I did have them go to church and I taught them the Bible. I
Yeah.
did decent, but I didn't do as good as I could have.
Mm.
What I totally neglected during my time as a father when my kids were young was health. I
Yeah.
didn't teach them to eat properly. I
Mm.
didn't teach them to stay in shape. I totally missed the boat on that. And I
Mm.
realized my story on my podcast, I won't go into it too much because it's been told enough times on here. But when I was 48, my kids were grown. I didn't know what to do with my life, and I was completely out of shape.
Mm.
I was eating processed food all the time. I would have Captain Crunch for breakfast every
Yeah.
morning, and I just did not pay attention to my nutrition. And I asked God, why aren't I happy? I have
Mm.
two grown kids. I have a beautiful wife. I have a nice home, nice cars. Why aren't I happy? And I felt like God told me, you need to get yourself in shape.
Mm.
Don't know why that happened.
Yeah.
Earlier in my life, when I was younger, I felt a little bit happier because I felt better about myself.
Yeah.
And as I started getting into shape and changing my life, I sat my two daughters down and I repented to them for not teaching
Mm.
them to care about their health. Because I
Mm.
do, just like we were talking about before with your spiritual health, it's spiritual, physical, and mental. And I do
Yep.
believe taking care of yourself will help you take care of your children.
Yep.
So the whole repentance thing, and my daughters, we thought you were a great father, but they
Yep.
appreciated that I took the time to repent and apologize for. They didn't see the mistake, but I saw it, and they appreciated the fact that I would take
Yeah.
the time to do that. And I have seen since then that they are becoming healthier and they're teaching
Mm.
their kids to be healthier.
Yep. That's amazing. Man, it's so good to be able to. I think that pride gets in our way a lot of the times. I don't want to say I'm sorry. I don't want to say I'm wrong, but man, that's such a gift to offer your kids. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Mm.
Speaking of pride and some things like that, what are some common stumbling blocks that Christian fathers have to disciple their children?
Yeah, I mean, pride's a big one. I think our own sin gets in the way, and I think really not just the sin, I think hiding it gets in the way. trying to kind of, I'm going to do this over here, I'm going to protect that, and I'm going to, portray something different over here. I think the fear of failure I see a lot of men get into, especially with the Bible, because they're like, well, I don't know how to teach my kids the Bible because I don't know the Bible myself. It's a pretty intimidating book for a lot of people. And so I think that can be intimidating. And then the other piece I would say that's intimidating is I think we are asking fathers to go make disciples of their kids, to intentionally disciple their kids. And many of them never got an example of what that looks like. So we're saying go
Exactly.
reproduce something that has never been done to you. Good luck. You know,
Right, right.
so I think a lot of times, I mean, that'll go back to you need other men who have been there, done that, that can kind of pour into you and give you a model. But even the book, we say don't just wait for that. I think that's a beautiful thing, and you need that. You need people older, you need people younger. But also, I would just go back to Jesus gave us a model. He did it with 12 guys. And what he did with those guys uh, was able to be reproduced to where we get the book of Acts, and it started the greatest movement that ever was, and we're still talking about it today. So if you go back and you're just looking at what Jesus did and you start to kind of find the common themes, I think we find that discipleship isn't as intimidating as it sounds on the front end. I don't think you need a theology degree. I don't think you need all this, stuff. But when you look at it, I mean, Jesus ate with people. He made time
Yep.
for people. He prayed with them. He walked with them. He wept with it. Like he was with people, and he also modeled getting away with the Father. So could we just boil it down to saying, all right, fathers, can you just walk with your kids? Can you be there, create spaces, create conversation, create connection, and also model a relationship with the Father that's contagious? If you
Yeah.
could just do that, that doesn't require knowing Hebrew or Greek. It doesn't require knowing all
Right,
that.
right.
It's just, man, have a passionate relationship with Jesus that overflows and your kids see it. And it could be as simple as that.
Yeah, I don't think you need to teach your kids any deep theology. You can make it as simple as the
Totally.
gospel. The gospel itself is simple.
Yeah.
Jesus
Oh,
came, died for our sins, and
yep.
covered us, and he gives us grace when we fall.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
something, children are going to fail.
Totally.
And as fathers, we need to be like our father, to be
Yeah.
patient and graceful with us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, what's one piece of advice that you would give to every Christian father that you wish you would have heard when you were a younger father?
I think I think we're learning the power of this right now. Um but I would spend time building your network or building your tribe or building your community, whatever you want to call that. Like, I think it's more than just being a small group, but we're seeing the power of community that are actually doing life together, not just kind of showing up on Sunday and saying hi to these people. It's not just
Correct. Yeah.
friends, but I mean, like, we have a few couples that come over every Friday night. We do Sabbath from Thursday night to Friday night. And so on Friday night, when we break Sabbath, we have these same few couples that come over. They have kids similar ages, and it's a chance for our kids to play with other kids, but the parents get to connect and share life and wrestle through the hard things and celebrate the fun things. And so I would say, yes, all the discipleship stuff. If you can work just as hard to build your tribe, I think it will pay off when things are hard, when things are easy. And I think you probably realize this, but there's things that you can say to your kids a million times, but then that other adult voice, maybe it's a small group leader or a trusted voice in their life says it, and it's like this aha, like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
and you're like,
exactly.
wait, I've been telling you that for 10 years. So I think you need those people. And I know we're going to need those. We already have needed those people. And I think we're going to continue to need those. My kids need other men my boys need other men to kind of speak into their life. So that's the one I would say that kind of gets overlooked a little bit. Maybe some people have the intentionality, but the community piece, um, I would highly encourage putting time and investment there.
Yeah, absolutely agree. How would a father weave faith conversations in with their child? Through,
Yeah.
playing with them or taking them out to a movie, stuff like
Yeah.
that. How do they weave those faith conversations in?
Yeah. We talk about this in the book. We talk about playing I Spy for Jesus. You know how you used to be in a car, it's like I spy something that's blue.
Right, right,
Is
yeah.
it the sky? Is it this? And I think we have to kind of figure out how to start playing I Spy with Jesus. And this gets easier, but I'll give you an example. You know, if you're watching a sports game, we were watching sports the other day, and I'm a soccer fan. I love soccer, and my boy loves soccer. And we're watching it, and these people started pushing, like they were kind of almost fighting. And you know, boys like my oldest, like, man, what are they doing? Why are they fighting? I'm like, oh, well, sometimes they get frustrated and they just want to win so bad, and they're just kind of, frustrated that he tripped, kind of talking through it. It's like, oh, why would they do that? And it's like, oh, well, and I'm playing I Spy, so I'm not just talking about soccer anymore. I'm
Hmm.
thinking, okay, wait a second, this might be a teaching moment. And so I'm like, well, with your brother, do you ever get mad at him, like when you guys are playing basketball outside? Well, yeah, yeah, I bet. Okay. Well, tell me why. Now we're talking about something totally different. It started with soccer, and now it's a chance for me to talk about what do you do with your anger and how do you deal with that? And how do you take a deep breath and say, all right, Jesus, help me. I'm frustrated right now, instead of going to fight or whatever. So I think that's kind of a small example as how do you play I Spy with your kids? I think you start to find those moments, and I think it becomes easier, but start to look for those moments where you can take something that's happening in life and turn it to a teaching moment. Or hey, what do you think Jesus did about that? How do you think he handled that? Or so I think those are ways to kind of help to take those moments as a father, learn to play I Spy, and I think your kids will enjoy it and kind of learn from it along the road, as opposed to, hey kids, it's devotional time. Like
Right,
that
right.
may or may not work depending on the age of your kids. If they're young like mine, sometimes the younger ones, they don't listen to anything I say. I was I was doing quiet time with one of them the other day. We were just talking, and out of the blue, I mean, I thought I nailed it. I thought I was like talking about this Jesus story. I was sharing this, the disciples did this, they fed these 5,000 people. I'm sharing this whole story. He's just like, Dad, do you think they have water slides in heaven? I was like, wait, you missed it, but I'm like, yeah, I think they had the biggest water slides in heaven. So I think with kids, it's less about is it perfect? Is it a big thing?
Correct, yeah.
Just learn to play I Spy along the way of life, and try to find those moments where you can, share little truths, little nuggets, and point them back to scripture.
Yeah, just a kind of a funny story to relate to that. I had heard from another pastor that this pastor had 12 children, and he
Ooh,
was,
God bless him.
very dedicated man, and he would get his kids up every morning at 5 a.m., had a whiteboard, started
Wow.
teaching Bible lessons. The kids were yawning, falling asleep. He'd be like, stay awake, I'm trying to teach you something. They got nothing out of it. Once I heard that, I was like, oh, I need to do the same thing. So I did the same thing. I copied, I imitated,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
would get my kids up early. They weren't getting any of
Yep.
it.
Yep.
But I raised two daughters. So two sisters, if you know, they always fight over something. It's
Yep.
usually clothes, but always over something or however long one's in the bathroom. And every time that they would get into some kind of a argument, I didn't even know that I was doing it at the time, but I would use biblical principles and teach them, well, this is why you should get along. You
Yeah.
should love one another, treat your sister with kindness. It was just kind of natural, just came up in me. And they've told me since they've gotten older, like, we got nothing out of those Bible lessons that you were giving us when we were young.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
every time that we got into an argument and you made us apologize to each other
Yep.
and forgive one another,
Yeah.
we never forget those times. So
Yep.
I think that's a very good step. And,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that happens to a lot of fathers and you just don't know it until they get
Yeah.
older in life and to see it.
Yep. I think too, it's probably empowering to know you don't have to do these perfect Bible studies. And actually that might not be the best model. It's like,
Correct, correct,
man,
yeah.
just live life alongside them, point out the moments. I think about a tour guide too. A tour guide isn't the expert. They're just like, hey, look over there, there's giraffes. Hey, look over there, there's elephant.
Right.
So just be a tour guide with your kids, and hey, you see that? That looks a lot like Jesus. Or see that? Hey, that doesn't. So yeah, just be a tour guide and life on
I
life.
mean, but that's a lot of what Jesus did. He walked with
Yeah.
his disciples. He
Yep.
showed compassion to people. He healed them in front of them.
Yep.
That's how Jesus discipled his.
Yeah.
He also had those moments where he rebuked them. Oh, ye
Sure.
of little faith. How many times did he
Yep.
say that to them?
Yep.
With the woman at the well, he's like, all you're thinking about is food, but I'm not thinking about food. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about
Yeah.
feeding, giving them life.
Yep.
That was a teaching moment that Jesus did with the disciples.
Yep.
Do you have a personal story or anecdote about being a father that you could share?
Oh man, I got a lot of stories. Stories I've done right and stories I've done wrong. And I think the I've shared a couple of my like the water slide one is a funny one that I've shared a few times because I think I nail it and I don't. But I think one that was impactful for me, maybe I hope it's impactful for my son later down the road, but I think it was more impactful for me. Um, Growing up, I don't remember men in general, older men. I don't really have any memories of older men saying, I'm sorry to me or, hey, I was wrong. A lot of older men in my life, I would say, at least from the kid perspective, and that's a little jaded because I'm a kid at the time, but at least growing up, I don't remember that. And I always felt like, man, that was interesting to feel like, oh, I'm the kid, I'm always wrong, you're always right. And so it's really important for me and my wife of like, I want to say, I'm sorry. Will you please forgive me to my kids? I want to model that early that I'm not perfect because I think it does two things. One, can create resentment in me towards my dad or other men, but it also can set up a model where I have to be perfect. Like if you've never said sorry, then maybe you don't make mistakes. Maybe I have to, be perfect or whatever. So I remember the first like real time I had to apologize to my kid. And it was one of those that is probably for something silly, but I remember getting down on a knee and getting eye to eye with him and just saying, "Hey buddy, I'm really sorry. Like, will you please forgive me? Like I mess up sometimes too, you know." And he was just like, "Yeah, sure." He's going on his way and
Right,
I'm
right.
sitting there like kind of tearing up because I'm processing my childhood and thinking like, man, I really want him to get this, but right now it's more about me and my own
Yeah.
pride. So yeah, I mean that there's been many, many times I had to apologize to him. Actually, my son, just before I came here, actually, it was a silly example tonight, but I ate the rest of his mac and cheese because I thought he was done, and he was not done, and he was not happy about it. And I was like, "Hey, buddy, I am so sorry. I didn't ask you." So silly things or big things, saying sorry is a big deal for me, and I think every time I do it, it heals something in me as a child as well as a dad, to
Yeah.
continue to fight pride and stay humble.
I don't blame you. Mac and cheese is delicious.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So, speak to a man that is thinking about looking into reading the book. What would
Yeah.
they get out of it by reading your book?
Yeah, I think you would get I think you would get a good framework for um, for your family. So if you are thinking about your family, whatever the makeup is, whether it's one parent, two parents, grandparents, one kid, four kids, adopted kid, whatever it is, I think you would end the book with a roadmap uh, towards a destination that is a preferred destination of your family. And so what that would mean is I would say the preferred destination is you and whoever else is parenting with you, co-parenting or parent spouse, that you are the main disciple makers of your kids. You're not going to do it perfectly, but you are doing it intentionally, creating a vision for your family that is countercultural than the current cultural current that we
Mhm.
have. So I think you'll get a good framework and a vision for what your family could go after. I think the second thing you'll get is a lot of tools and tricks along the way, some tips, some learnings, some tools that have really helped us. And then I think the last thing, I think you'll get a lot of stories. We write in a very story model, just like we've been talking tonight, is I
Yeah.
think it's as you go. It's as you go, make disciples, not, in a classroom. And so you'll get a lot of stories of Josh, some stories of me, just us doing it well, us not doing it well. So I think you'll realize you're on an even playing field. We all make mistakes. There's no professionals in parenting. We're just trying to do the best that we can, and try to yeah, raise kids go out and be different, be countercultural than this world. And I think hopefully look a lot like Jesus, because I think our community needs that more, maybe now more than ever. I think they always need that, but just the way culture's going and the way this world is shifting and shaking up, I think they need a new generation that loves Jesus passionately. So I think that's what you'll get.
Awesome.
Framework, some stories, and some tools that'll help you get there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So there's a question I ask every man that comes on this podcast,
Yeah.
and you're a man. I know we're
Love it.
talking about dads, and this is a little bit different,
Yeah.
but in the cave in First Samuel, in the cave of Adullam, David was running away from Saul,
Yeah.
hiding because Saul was chasing him. Saul was chasing him and not paying attention to the kingdom, what was going on. 450 men came to David, disgruntled, disheartened, looking for direction. They didn't know what to do. David said something to them that later, when David became king, these became his mighty men. So, modern day, you have a bunch of fathers. I'll spin it a little bit differently. You
Yeah.
have a bunch of fathers coming to you disgruntled, disheartened, discouraged. They don't know what to do. What would you tell them?
Um, I would say, um, I would say don't delegate your role that God's called you to. Um, as far as we're talking about with fathers, I think being a father is maybe the most important role that any man listening to this could have. I think it's more important than a job. It's more important than a lot of other things in this world. So I would say don't delegate it out of fear, out of insecurity. Step into that and show up. I think showing up is half the battle. If you can show
Amen.
up wholly, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, if you can show up, I think that's you've got the battle almost won just by showing up. If you can bring
Right,
all of
right.
you and actually be home when you're home and actually be in front of your kids when you're in front of your kids, not on your phone or computer.
Exactly.
If you can show up, I think that's half the battle.
Yep. Amen.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you on the spot before we
Yeah.
get ready to end.
Yeah.
And if you think that I shouldn't have done this, I can edit this out.
Yeah.
But
Go
since you're
for
a
it.
dad, when I first started this podcast, I was going to try to do like a little thematic thing
Yeah.
where I was going to do a dad joke every
Yeah.
episode. You
Yeah.
got a dad joke for me?
I do have a fun. Well, I don't know what qualifies as a dad joke, but I'll say my favorite one when my kids are always telling jokes, and they always know this one already, but um, I say, why didn't the orange finish the race?
Why?
Because he ran out of juice.
I've never heard that one. That's great.
There you go. Yeah, me and my kids, they love to tell jokes. And here, I'll give you a little dad tip, a pro tip. I ran out of jokes. Chat GPT, whatever you think about it, I think it's like half 50% amazing and 50% terrifying, but it does a really good job coming up with jokes when I'm dry of jokes. So
Yeah.
my kids now are like, come up with a joke about a dinosaur. And I'm like, all right, chat GPT, come up with a joke about a dinosaur, So it's come up with some good ones for me, but that's my go-to. So
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah.
So where can people go to find the book?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon, it's on Kindle. You guys can get that paperback. You can get Audible as well, so it's all on
So there's
there.
audio version.
Yep,
Okay.
we recorded a full audio version. We tried to make it really easy. I know I listen to Audible, so that was important for me to record an Audible.
Yeah.
That's how I listen to my books. So yeah, Audible, Amazon, Kindle, however you kind of download books. It's also going to be on parentingagainstthecurrent.com. We'll have a lot of resources there. And
Awesome.
we're going to keep putting out new resources each month. So that'll be something to stay up to date
Do
with.
you guys you and Josh both have social media pages to follow where you connect with people?
Yeah, we have Parenting Against the Current is our social media where we're going to push everything via the book. But then mine is Matt Nations and his is Josh Petit. Easy to find us on there as well. But yeah, we're all on the social media platforms.
Awesome. Any
Yeah.
final thoughts before we go?
I think one, just thank you for what you do. I think we talked a little bit beforehand, but I just think equipping dads, equipping fathers, equipping men to be better men, to take the mantle that God's given us and put on us and called us up to, I think is a worthy calling. And so thank you for speaking into men's lives and providing a space, a platform, and building a community where men can be equipped and can be encouraged. I think it's a beautiful thing.
And thank you for what you do, for you what you and Josh both do. I think is very important for fathers to know how to disciple their children, and all the tools and resources that they can get to do that is amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Awesome.
If you guys put out another book, reach out to me. I'd love to have you guys. Maybe I can have you both on sometime.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. God bless you.